Hi YouTube, it's Lena, and I'm here today with the Drugstore Makeup Tag. This was, I think she technically edited like an old tag from a couple of years ago, but it was, this current iteration was done by Jen Phelps. I will link her video down below. She doesn't need me linking more people to her, but she's, you know, a great YouTuber if you're interested. So there are 14 questions. I will be inserting pictures to show, you know, what some of the things are that I'm talking about, and let's get started. First question, if you could only use one drugstore affordable brand, what would it be? I would actually pick NYX because they have a foundation specifically that I can use pretty well, that I can get away with because I have really oily skin. They make one of my favorite primers. They're a pore filling primer, and I can at least get by with a lot of the rest of their stuff. Their eyeshadow formula is pretty decent, depending on, you know, which one you get, obviously. They're the ones that I would probably go with. So for number 2, what is the most underrated drugstore or affordable brand? Actually say Shop Miss A, their AOA Studio brand, because you can't buy it in drugstores obviously, but it is an affordable brand, and I appreciate that that's listed on here like that. Thing is, most of their stuff is $1 and they have some really great things, like their makeup sponge. Mine's filthy right now, but their, I don't know exactly what it's called, it's the $1.55 one specifically that does a great job blending in foundation, and it's $1.55. I feel less stupid about having to throw it away after a couple of months. But they've got a really great loose setting powder. It's really small, so if you're somebody that wears a lot of powder, you probably want to buy a couple of them at a time, but they're $1, so. Their foundations don't have much of a great shade range. Like, they're okay, but they could definitely be better. But I'm willing to forgive a little bit more for something that's really inexpensive like that, you know, because they definitely have a BB cream that I think could work for multiple shade tones. So definitely check them out if you haven't already, but they're really great. They're cruelty free. I think they ship anywhere in the world. I'm almost positive of that. So yeah. Next is, what is the most overrated drugstore affordable brand? Now, that one's a little bit harder to say. I know several people who did this said NYX, but they're the one that I would use, you know, if I could only choose one, because their foundation in particular works for me, and it has a really great shade range. So it's the Can't Stop, Won't Stop foundation, if you are so curious. Now, I'm trying to go cruelty free, but I actually find L'Oreal to be pretty overrated. And that's not me just picking on them because they test on animals. It's, you know, I used to find that a lot of their stuff was okay. Like, they have some really great mascaras. I'm trying to think of what else I've used from them. I've actually done like a full video of nothing but L'Oreal products, and I'm trying to think. I know way back in the day, like before I really did YouTube, I used their True Match foundation, the one that's still in like the little glass bottle that doesn't have like a pump or anything on it. That was like one of the first foundations out there, especially in the drugstore, that you could get that actually had like, you know, a real shade range. It even had like warm and cool tones and everything. Whew. Yeah, but their answer in particular is one that L'Oreal in particular is for an answer further down below that I think is what really makes me feel that they're kind of overrated. Like, I'd never had a really great primer from them that worked really well. I've had some that worked okay, but not great. But just for being such a huge brand, they were not a brand I had a really hard time giving up. Let me put it that way. So, what's your favorite drugstore product under $5? This. I will link it down below because I can never quite remember the name of it, but yeah, that Shop Miss A sponge is killer. I know not everybody likes it, but it's so cheap to try that you barely have anything left to lose. So that's definitely one worth trying. I'm trying to think of something else. No, that's probably one of my favorites. It's a hidden gem from the drugstore that no one talks about. It's kind of a hard one for me because, I mean, I would say if you want to go like brands in general, like you could actually get in the drugstore. Not Milani, them too, honestly, but I was trying to say Jordana, their sister brand that you could barely find in drugstores these days. Like sometimes you could find like a little display of it in, what's it called, Walgreens. Their lip liners in particular are really amazing, and they're like $2.99. So yeah, that's definitely like a hidden gem that almost nobody talks about. Their lip liners. I don't have one right now because I'm trying to finish this red lip liner, and it's their red lip liner in particular that I use. This one's from Wet n Wild. But their red lip liner in Sedona Red is just the right amount of creaminess. It's amazing. Like it's not gonna bleed outside your lip line, which for a lip liner it shouldn't do that anyway, but some are like that Wet n Wild one, a little too creamy and can bleed. All right, so number 6, what's your favorite drugstore foundation? The NYX one I mentioned is really good. One that I'm finishing up right now, the Milani Conceal and Perfect, is also really nice. The shade range is okay on this one. Mine is 008 Porcelain, and that's what I'm wearing today. I actually filmed a fully Milani look, so all of this I'm wearing is Milani. All the way down to the eyeshadow primer. I actually finally tried the eyeshadow primer because I've never actually owned it before. And number 7, what products do you tend to buy more at the drugstore versus high-end? Mascara is definitely a drugstore only purchase for me. I have some higher end mascaras, but they've mostly come with kits or little mini freebies and stuff like that. Like I do have this that I got for my birthday from Ulta last year. It's next in my rotation. That's why it's actually sitting up here. It's the Tarte Man-Eater mascara. And I've tried some really good high-end mascaras, but you know, go try an Essence mascara. It's like $3 or $4 and they're really good too. So yeah, mascara is definitely one I buy from the drugstore. Eyeshadow is really the only one I regularly buy high-end. I buy plenty of drugstore too, but that I'm usually willing to shell out more for an eyeshadow palette versus anything else. And honestly, my skincare more often than not tends to be a little more high-end. Not always. Like e.l.f. actually has a really good skincare line, so and I definitely want to try their matte skincare line, the stuff in the pink bottles. Those I really want to try. So number 9, number 8. What drugstore brand do you think is overpriced? As much as I like NYX, they're definitely creeping up in price. The main thing that tends to creep up in price with NYX is some of their bigger eyeshadow palettes. Like once you're hitting the $20 range, you're not really drugstore anymore, in my opinion. I would say the same about Pixie as far as their makeup is concerned in particular. And I know in Europe, they're not considered a drugstore brand, but you can buy them in Target here, so they are. And you can buy it at Ulta now too, and you get the drugstore coupon. Actually, just, like, I'm willing to pay more for skincare than makeup usually, so I don't mind paying, say, like, I think this retinol oil was like 25 bucks. I just finished my nighttime oil, so I had my next one in here for some reason. I think I just haven't put it away yet. So that's why I happen to have it, so. NYX can be overpriced. Pixie, especially for having a lot of very basic, has such a bad connotation to it, but basic makeup. Like, what out there from Pixie is really well known? Like, they have their highlighters that are really well known. Their setting mists are really well known. The glow setting mist, which I really like it, but I go through it in like 6 weeks. And yeah, it's mostly their skincare that they're much more known for. So Okay, so number 9, finally. What is your favorite drugstore dupe? I have to think about this because I don't really dupe too much. I do have one. The NYX Pore Filling Primer, I think, is a really good dupe for the Benefit Professional, the regular one, not the hydrating one. And it doesn't have that very heavy scent that the Benefit one does that I really hated. It made me, I went through a full size of the Benefit one because I had bought it, but it was a challenge. And I have, even before I went with cruelty free, I refused to buy another one. And I find that the NYX Pore Filler performs very, very similar. So there you go. There's a drugstore dupe for you. What's the best drugstore eyeshadow formula? I wish I had thought to like grab a palette, but NYX has these like, I think they are these like little square eyeshadows that I think are really good, especially their Brights one. It's a really inexpensive way. It's like $16 or $17, but wait for it to go on sale at Ulta. It's a great way to get a bright eyeshadow palette that's really nice for really inexpensive. Those are really good. I used these today and they were really good for Milani. These Salt and Pepper eyeshadow palettes that are for sale at Ulta and on their website. The green is traveling a little bit and that's kind of bugging me from, what was it, this one? From this palette, there's a dark shimmery green. I wish I had wet it, and I think it would be acting better, but they're really, really pigmented at least. I wish I could say Wet n Wild, but I no longer buy from them. They did have a really good eyeshadow formula though. Like even when they changed everything, it was still pretty good. Oh well, what can you do? So, and for worst drugstore eyeshadow formula, I have admittedly not tried a L'Oreal eyeshadow formula in years, but I remember these big palettes they used to have that were such kind of duds. I will insert pictures of them as I remember them, but yeah, those were not impressive. Drugstore brands you used to love but aren't crazy about anymore, I would probably say Wet n Wild, just because they used to be one of my favorite brands. But nothing about their products, although they release a lot of freaking collections these days from just what I've seen in passing. I don't keep up with it anymore. Just the whole we're gonna sell in China for like 2 years before we tell anybody ordeal left a really bad taste in my mouth. So yeah, definitely them. And for drugstore product you didn't expect to like but totally wowed you? I don't know. I don't buy something if I don't expect to like it. That's a weird question. Because, you know, I don't get sent PR, so I actually purchase all of my shit. But, yeah. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer for that one. And favorite affordable eyeshadow palette right now? I don't know. I'm gonna have to insert a picture of one because I would have to actually like sit down and look at my stuff, which I should have done before filming this, but I didn't. But that NYX Brights one is one that I would heavily recommend as far as just a good overall palette. And I've heard good stuff about the more neutral ones too, just I don't have those. I just bought the Brights one. But that is it. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I do really appreciate it, and hopefully I will see you later. Bye!